Okay, it's 6 o'clock. So let's call the meeting to order. Sam, would you like to do the roll call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Chair Watson,
Present.
Vice Chair Howe,
Present.
Commissioner Smith. Here. Commissioner Hunter.
Here.
Commissioner Bachran. Here. Commissioner Stelter.
Here.
Commissioner Wynn.
Here.
You have a forum.
Thanks. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have 3 seconds.
Pick one, anyone.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yes, Sam.
I was just gonna ask you to remove the minutes as they obviously aren't in the packet. Sorry, Friday got away from me.
Well,
I move the
Let's
table
have it.
minutes to the next meeting.
thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we have a hearing under actions and presentations for the consideration of the request for approval for a major subdivision from David Warren and Dan Rubinoff for lot 2 of Clark's Inn subdivision. Okay, I'm going to open the hearing now on the application submitted by Dave Warren for approval of a major subdivision for for lot 2 of Clark Inn subdivision in Paonia, Colorado, 81428. The purpose of the hearing is to provide a public forum for all interested parties who wish to comment on these applications before the Planning Commission. The procedure for the hearing will be as follows. First, there will be a presentation by the staff. Second, there will be a presentation by the applicant. After these 2 presentations, we will allow members of the public to speak for up to 5 minutes. All testimony must be presented at the lectern after you give your full name and address, and I swear you in. Okay. Please direct all your comments to the Planning Commission and not the town staff or the applicant. It's best if your comments aren't repetitive of others. After receiving public comments, we will allow the applicant and town staff an opportunity to respond and answer any questions raised by the public comments. I will then turn the matter over to the Planning Commission, and the commissioners may ask questions of anyone who testified. We generally will not ask questions during the presentations. Finally, I will close the public hearing, and the Planning Commission will discuss the matter and may take some kind of action. Once the public hearing is closed, no further comment from the applicant or the public will be taken. However, the commissioners may ask for advice from the town attorney. Public hearings are recorded for the public record. Okay, Clerk Better, do we have proper notification?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do.
Okay, thank you. Do any commissioners have any disclosures, any conflicts of interest, any ex parte contacts?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. So we're on to the staff presentation. Would the town administrator please give the staff presentation? The town administrator is Stephen Wynn. He's also a member of the Planning Commission. And staff presentations might also include the engineer. Well, we don't really have a town engineer, but Public Works for our attorney. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this staff report was actually prepared by Morgan Taylor. She is our utility billing and permit clerk, and I reviewed it prior to its inclusion in this packet. You might ask, why is this a major subdivision? Why can't it be a minor subdivision? Well, it's a minor subdivision that is subdividing again. And so by our definition of minor subdivision, it means the division of land that meets at least one of the following conditions. The division of a parcel of land into 3 lots or less, a parcel of land may only be subdivided once into 3 lots, which is the Clarkson subdivision, and this is subdividing it again. Under the minor subdivision procedures once, but the relocation or adjustment of lot lines may be permitted multiple times in the same parcel of land, provided that such modification conforms to all other applicable provisions of these regulations. Any subsequent subdivision, except for paragraph B, must follow the procedures for a major subdivision. Subparagraph B is the relocation or adjustment of a lot line that does not create new lots. This does create new lots, so it doubles that, it cuts that lot in 2, therefore it has to be a major subdivision. The request is to divide a single 14,771.5 square foot lot, which is original Clarkson subdivision lot 2, into a 7,458.8 square foot lot and a remainder lot of 7,312.6 square foot lot. The existing zoning is R2 medium density residential, and the intent of the applicants are to build a single family home on each lot. Since Clark End was established as a minor subdivision of 3 lots, approval is needed to further subdivide the lots into 2 equal parcels. This creates a new major subdivision, West Elks major subdivision, with the lots being designated West Elks subdivision lots 2A and 2B, and you'll see that on the preliminary plat.
Stefan, if I may interrupt quickly, we just had an addition to the information here tonight, and what it is basically the county map that the clerk has just handed out to us with the lot and the owner of properties that surround it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think at the end of our discussion, we'll be able to take and make a motion to accept anything that's been presented tonight and add it to the public record. Lots 2 of Clarkson major subdivision is approximately 1/3 of an acre, includes 2 town taps, 2 town sewer taps, or water and sewer taps. Evidence of the purchase for water and sewer taps is attached to the staff report as attachment A. That's been an issue with the Board of Trustees, so it's been included with this subdivision. Reason for splitting this property is to create 2 separate lots, lots 2A and 2B. The lot is zoned R2, and although this doesn't contemplate or give permission to change the current zoning, R2 typically allows for 2 dwellings by right as long as they have minimum lot area of 8,000 square foot. That is also required to have 2 dwellings per lot, or also allowed to have 2 dwellings per lot. The original lot, Clark's End, was large enough for 2 dwellings. However, splitting the lot into 2 lots makes each lot less than 8,000 square foot, but over the 6,000 square foot requirement for each unit to have 1 dwelling unit by right. Due to the size of the lot splits, only 1 dwelling unit is allowed for each of the newly created lots, and that section of the code is also attached, section 16330. The original subdivision of Clark's End included a completion of all the required guidelines and requirements for a subdivision, everything from infrastructure, emergency access, water, sewer, all utilities. And so what you're going to see on the preliminary plat is that it's already existing, it's already been considered, but it's also now on this new subdivision preliminary plat. Fire protection will be provided by the Paonia Volunteer Fire Department. There is a fire hydrant located on the northwest corner of Lot 2A, which is the old Lot 2. The current property is already equipped with water, sewer, and electricity. No changes or additions will be required other than connecting the mentioned utilities once the structure has been built and been through the normal building permit process. 10 of the surrounding, this report ought to be updated. I believe there's now 12 of the surrounding neighbors have provided letters of support for this request. Consideration of the elements within the comprehensive plan support the subdivision application, specifically and this is the 1996 comprehensive plan. That's land use development 6, promote infill construction within the town limits while considering density, zoning, and compatibility of surrounding land uses. Land use development number 7, promote infill construction within the town limits in order to capitalize on proximity to existing utilities. LUD 19, transition residential densities from higher within town limits, to lower outside the town limits. LUD 21, higher density residential development, defined as including up to 4 dwelling units per acre, should be encouraged adjacent to and close to town in order to minimize impacts on utilities and traffic, enhance downtown business opportunities, and retain the pedestrian atmosphere of the community. H7, encourage the development of a variety of residential products and their densities, thereby expanding the opportunity of choice in housing product types while minimizing public investment capital expenditures for infrastructure. H10, and H stands for housing. H10, encourage the development of residential environments which are sensitive to noise, traffic, and established public facilities, and which will complement the area's terrain, vegetation, and other natural resources. H11, facilitate and encourage new housing development consistent with the specific needs and goals of the community. There are certain required findings needed, and this should be rezoning in order to consider a subdivision application. Section 17520 of the code, the town's code, establishes procedures for subdivision preliminary plat. B1, the names and addresses of the owners and applicants on the preliminary plat. Do we have it? That preliminary plat, big rolled up one? I think it's good for everybody to see it. Oh, it's also included. Thank you. It's also included in your packets. But you'll see that everything as required has been presented on the preliminary plat. The names, addresses, and telephone numbers of the surveyor, engineer, and planner of the subdivision. There isn't an engineer or planner because those things were already existing that are required, but there is a surveyor and his number is there. The names and property and addresses of all property owners within a 200-foot radius of the property. All of that has been completed by the town clerk, and those letters were sent out. She had answered in the affirmative. All data and information required in the subdivision annexation summary form and for the optional sketch plan. That is, a sketch plan isn't required. This is a preliminary plat. Description of any proposed covenants. There are no proposed covenants presented with the application. That's typical for like a homeowners association. Proposed terms of reservations and dedications of public rights-of-way easements and other public lands. You'll see on there that utility easements currently exist and they're staying on the new subdivision. So appropriate terms of reservations, dedications of public rights-of-way easements and other public lands have been noted and described on the preliminary plat. Evidence that provision has been made for facility sites, easements, utilities. The preliminary plat provides details regarding facility sites, easements, and rights-of-way for utility services. It's provided on a 24 by 36-inch sheet. There's only one sheet because the infrastructure is already existing. It doesn't need to have engineering for everything else, including the subdivision itself is existing. Sidewalks are poured as well. Goodness. They have provided just about everything that is needed. So let's see. Drainage plan is that it moves north down Clark. That's what was already designed and accepted. There are curves or rolled back curves in that area within that cul-de-sac that directs it where to go. Let's see. Staff recommends approval of the major subdivision and bases the recommendation on the information given by the applicant. The applicant's plan conforms to the major subdivision section of the Paonia Municipal Code, and it substantially conforms to the 1996 Comprehensive Master Plan. Further conditions are recommended that restrict the 2 new parcels to 1 dwelling unit each for each new lot due to the reduction in size agreed to the subdivision. And there are potential motions also dealing with this subdivision, this staff report. That is there are 2 other things that were required that came from the Public Works Department. The police department has no issue the police department has no issue with the subdivision, and the Public Works Department also had no issue with it. Public Works does not object to the approval of this major subdivision. The meter pits and meters have not been installed. The only concern would be placement of the new pits that can be worked through after actual site plans provided. They do provide a utility easement outside of the sidewalk. That is it.
So, the applicant presentation comes next. Would the applicant please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and take an item.
My name is David Moore. I live at 40760 German Creek Drive in Canada.
Do you swear to tell the truth on this, in this matter?
I do.
Okay, please make your presentation.
Well, Stefan pretty much covered the presentation. I think just to really summarize, we're not asking for anything more than what's currently allowed for our property. Essentially have a lot that has 2 water and 2 sewer taps, an R2 zoning, so a lot to build 2 homes there. We'd just like to divide the lot in half, so each have the ability to have a home, big lot, and be able to build our own home. That's basically on that. And this wouldn't create any more additional traffic impacts to our neighbors. The additional traffic or impact to our neighbors in Black Avenue. It's because of this, all the neighbors I reached out to will support the application. It's really not going to impact them in play. It's because the parcel is a 30 acre in size, so we're able to do that, and we're really essentially splitting it down the middle. That's really my request. We're simply asking to be able to split our lot into 2 lots. That's what we'd like to do.
Okay, so we'll go on to allowing the public to speak up to 5 minutes at this point. Thank you, David. Okay, so we have received numerous letters from neighbors. Do we have anybody in the room? Any members of the public that would like to comment? No.
I have to say at this point.
Okay. Okay, so I guess I didn't really open it because there's no one to open it for, but I'll close it now. Public comment for the time is closed. Okay.
Is there anybody online?
Okay, so moving on. Interesting. Okay, oh, I was on the wrong page there, but okay, public comment. Okay, do we have any rebuttal from the applicant, or the staff? You don't want to rebut the silence there?
I do want to make note that we did receive 2 more letters of support for the subdivision from other neighbors, making it 12.
The map that I handed out to you during the staff presentation was actually part of the original packet. And it is actually marked with where the neighbors who have written letters of support are located compared to the property.
Okay. Okay, okay, so before we turn to the commissioner questions and deliberations, I want to state that the documents included as part of the record for this public hearing include all the application materials submitted by the applicant, all materials included in the packets, all written referral and public comments received regarding the application, the notice of hearings, and the town's ordinances. Does anyone have any objection to the inclusion of these items in the record? No objections. Okay, next, questions from the trustees. Who would like to begin? Okay.
I have a staff question, which is, if this is approved tonight and the trustees approve it, will there then need to be a rezoning so that those 2 lots are one?
No.
Why, can you tell me why not? Simply, my concern is future confusion.
So unless R2 reduces the size of lot requirements, there's no way that multiple structures can be built on that property.
You're allowed to build a single structure on R2 if it's
Yeah.
under 8,000, above 6,000 square.
Correct.
My concern is future.
Well,
Future
So we
things
don't,
not being done properly.
You know,
I guess I
and
can't.
that's why I'm putting it in as not me. Why Morgan has put in potential motion to include that as a condition to move forward. It's not like it changes anything, it's there just as a condition. Rezoning is typically applicant driven, and they're not asking to rezone it to R1. We got to look at this as those zones as densities. And if it were to stay as one lot, not subdivided, they could build two structures on it as is, because it'd be over that 8,000 square feet. So it's still dense, right? R2 is still dense. So I don't think it's necessary to rezone. And I would caution that if we as the planning commission were to push forward for rezoning, that could be seen as a taking. And there is a chance in the future, let's say that the property, somebody buys both properties from both property owners and decides to unsubdivide it, so move that property line and get rid of it and turn it into one lot. They could do that and probably reduce their taxes as well, since they wouldn't be paying a base tax on two different lots. So we would be setting a precedent that we don't want to set. It would be really hard to undo if it was changed to R1.
If I might.
Go ahead.
The reason that I'm thinking is future accessory dwelling units and the considerations that might have to go into that, if it would create any confusion. And then my second question is, when will the town update its zoning map?
We have one update that needs to be added.
Including this, because I think all that area is
This
still.
isn't a rezoning.
No, I know, but Clark, this subdivision is still shown as R1 on our current zoning map. So it's still shown in yellow on the current
It's
zoning map.
showing as R2.
Not in the map I have. So if we could just. let me double check
Is it
that.
online?
It's also yellow. So the one I'm referring to is the 2018 map. So this is a little off the topic of this particular situation, but I just would like to suggest that we try to get some updates
Little house
for
review.
future, when we do start looking at ADUs.
Yeah, we can do that.
Anyway,
I've got some
that's-
updates to make as well on this. So,
What year was it rezoned in?
Lynn Mattingly did it. It was the same time she bought those.
2019.
Yeah, it was the same time she had bought the water and sewer tabs.
So that was in 2018. According to the tap sales. Anyway, thank you for answering that for this particular situation.
Okay. So Stefan's aware of the potential issue with zoning not being up to date. Can we move on to, does anybody else have any questions or? Any questions? Nothing? Okay, I just have a question on myself. So I see the proof of the water tap purchase, but we're just seeing what, 6 taps that were purchased, and there are multiple receipts, so it's kind of confusing. I don't know if that could be explained on what we're looking at with the multiple receipts. And then which properties are they attached to? Is there any record of that? There are 6 taps, and 2 of them were on this property, but where did they all end up? And who owns them? Okay, so that might be for the applicant. Okay, hold on, David, let me just see here. Yeah, and one other question is, we didn't have any documentation, I'm sure it's been done, but the, proof of, I don't know if you have to have proof, that might be, you might not have a water tap. I mean, the town knows you have a water tap if you've been doing all the standby fees, and I assume all the standby fees are up to date.
They are.
But there's no comment on that. Okay, great. So, as far as, do you want to explain? Can I ask the applicant at this point? Would you like to explain how are the water taps assigned to the different properties? Do you have any? Do you know that? It's just
So, yeah, but when Manning did a minor subdivision, she has 3 lots.
Okay.
Lots 1, 2, and 3, and each lot has 2 large
Has 2.
sewer taps.
okay. So that little easement one, where I guess that pathway up onto Colorado, it looked like it was a numbered lot on one of these
No,
things.
I think Lynn just created an open space for that. She wanted to allow people to be able to
Okay.
walk up through the neighborhood up onto the ditch.
And that is actually town property, though.
Oh, that was town property. Okay, okay.
Utilities.
It's easement for utilities, but also has been deeded to the town as a parklet.
Okay.
Parkland.
And then I have one final question. We talked about drainage off that property is able to go down along the gutter. My question is at the bottom of the Clark, near Second, or are there any storm sewer manholes there that water goes into? Where does it ultimately end up?
We don't have any storm sewer. We only have sanitary sewer out there.
Okay,
So we don't have a storm water utility until we get to Third Street.
okay.
And we don't actually have a functioning stormwater utility.
So it runs along the curb and gutter system. I don't know if there are actually curbs on the south side of the street there, but there's no pooling problems, obviously. And it's not like it would be any different than it is now, aside from covering more of the open dirt with paving and roof runoff, I suppose. But so if the Public Works had no concerns about that. Okay.
I mean, they have concerns about stormwater, but it's a bigger discussion about Clark's than just
Okay.
this subdivision.
Okay. Great, those are my questions. Any other questions and comments? We're all done with that? Okay. Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing and turn this matter over to the Planning Commission for consideration of the matter listed on the agenda. So, matters consideration of the request for approval for a major subdivision from David Warren and Dan Rubinoff for Lot 2 of Clark's End subdivision. Or deliberations. Okay. So, commissioners, let me see the cloud here. You should discuss application, noting attributes that support a determination to approve or deny the application in accordance with applicable provisions of the town code. So if we could get a little bit of like making hamburger here, so we can document our thought process before a decision is made. Lucy?
It seems relatively straightforward to me, given that, most of the work on the subdivision with utilities and grading and drainage and everything has already been completed. And the fact that it's already restricted by size to dwellings, whether it's subdivided or not, again, at this point. So I guess that's why I don't really have any questions. It seems pretty straightforward to me.
Okay, Mary Bachman.
When I was on the board, when Lynn Madigan brought the first subdivision to us, and it was for 6 lots. And so everything was configured for 6 lots. So of course, it's already done. And so this is just, it seems pretty straightforward.
It's kind of moving along the same vein that had been previously approved. There's nothing really out of the ordinary here. Okay, Commissioner Howell.
I think it's a good use of the infill that we're talking about, for the town. So I think it's a good idea.
Okay, Paige, do you have any comments?
I'll just add that I think, when it comes time for construction and permitting, they'll be following all the same setbacks that they would with a single dwelling on the correct size lot. So I feel like everything that I would be thinking about considering is going to be taken care of. And I don't have a problem with the 1/3 acre being divided in half.
Okay, Rick Stelter,
It's pretty normal. We're not adding any housing units. All we're doing is splitting the lot. So I don't see any problem with it at all.
okay, and Stefan, did you have anything to add?
I do. So I went to look at the minutes from when this was last subdivided. It was from June 26, 2019. The application was to change it from R2 into an R1, but it's unclear if that was ever approved. It looks like the subdivision was approved, but that it kept the square feet for developing in R2 zone. So it looks like that R2 zoning stuck and they didn't change the zoning at that time. So it is still R2. That's what I'm seeing in the minutes.
So I was confused by your intro. So when it came through, if they wanted to
In
do
the
R1, but
application, they asked for it to be split, subdivided, and changed into an R1, but it doesn't look like that's what happened
Okay.
in the approval. It looks like they split it and kept it as R2. And I would ask that we could include the June 26, 2019 minutes into this public record.
June 26, 2019, and that was the hearing,
Correct.
the original hearing by Lynn Mattingly.
in the planning commission?
It wasn't the planning commission.
It was a planning commission hearing or the board, final board hearing?
This was a planning commission meeting.
Okay. Okay,
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
One thing I would just like to add is that, for further consideration, is just that all of the neighbors, 12 neighbors, have given us letters of recommendation that they're not objecting to this, and many are in favor of it, so.
thank you.
These minutes aren't the best, but at least they'll be admitted.
Yeah,
So,
so, as of the present, we haven't had any, complaints or concerns, voiced by neighbors. Okay, great, so if there's no further discussion by the planning commission, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I will make a motion. I move to recommend the application for subdivision of the property commonly known as TBD Clark Avenue, Paonia, Colorado 81428, because it does not adversely affect public health, safety, and welfare of the existing residential neighborhood, that the subdivision substantially conforms to the comprehensive master plan and promote infill construction within the town limits while considering density zoning and compatibility of surrounding land uses with the following conditions: that the applicant may only build one dwelling unit for each of the new lots, and also receives that favorable determination from the Board of Trustees. I would also ask that we include the minutes, the planning commission minutes from 6/26/19.
I'll second.
I'll second.
these require a
Roll call vote, yes. So, do we have a vote here? Let's start with Mary. We have a motion and a second. Does the clerk want to take the roll call?
Chair Watson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Howell, Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Aye.
Commissioner Bachman,
Aye.
Commissioner Stelter,
Aye.
Commissioner Wynn,
Aye.
motion carries.
So, that's going to head on to the Board of Trustees at this point for the final, vote on this. Okay, thank
Thank you all
you.
very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, the second item on the agenda is consideration of the public engagement timeline for the accepted draft of the comprehensive plan. So discussion on methods for circulating the draft of the plan, setting a public work session, presentation of the accepted draft of the comprehensive plan, setting a due date for acceptance of the final public comments, setting a works session to consider incorporation of public comments, setting a date for our public hearing to adopt the comprehensive plan. So, I'm just going to ask by way of starting the discussion. I think back in January, we had talked with the contractor there was some money left. And there was a discussion that she was going to be able to help disseminate this information. And I'm wondering where we stand with that currently. Are we just kind of trying to kind of figure it out so we give her some direction?
It's like $300 left in the contract.
Oh, I thought it was a few thousand.
No,
What happened?
nothing, there's $300 left in the contract, that's what's been presented forever. There's a few $1,000s on the table still with the state that we can't get until we've adopted a comprehensive plan. Yeah,
Oh, it sounded like there was more than $300 back when she came to the meeting and talked about how she could be involved.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, oh, good.
I remember it being a smaller amount, and in my mind, it was, we were gonna get one thing out of her, and that was
It wasn't the party,
to conduct what's the,
open house. or-
yeah, basically presenting the draft to the public and accepting comments.
And did we talk about too how to disseminate the information so enough people heard about it?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big part of it.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think that was 2 meetings ago, because I
It
missed
was
the
like
last
in
meeting.
January.
Yeah, it was before I was on, so.
Yeah,
You know, we had kind of a lengthy discussion about all the different media outlets to senior centers to let them know, try to get the word out beyond the Town of Paonia website. And Cal Rose had some thoughts on that, including posters to put up and around.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's the best use of her couple hundred, what her
putting
best,
a copy maybe on the
best talent.
meeting table at the library. Have you found the meeting, Stefan?
I have it. Yeah, I'm actually just gonna hurry up and log into Excel and see what we spent.
Were you doing that? Do we know Cal Rose's schedule?
She was in Europe, but I think it was a couple of weeks ago during our March meeting. So I don't know if she's back yet or not. It's wireless, yeah, it's loading.
Oh.
There we go.
No, it was kind of a work session, so it's probably all in the
Well,
video.
there's
And
no minutes for that time.
she was at the back of the room. I don't know, if she came up to the podium. And I don't know.
You're waiting.
I click and it kind of ticks slow.
Yeah,
There's no minutes from.
There we go.
you have to almost look at the video and look for her at the podium and then start with.
Okay, so we have spent $67,610.62 with them. Let's see.
67.
610.62. And our contract with them, give me one second, I'll pull that up.
67, 6110.
Oh, I mean, what the contract,
That's what I was saying.
67,
That's what was spent.
610
Yeah,
and 62 cents.
62 cents.
I believe there was one change order, so I have to see what that one was for there. Okay. 68,275, not to exceed of 68,275. So if you take 67,610, 62 cents. We have $664.38 left.
66438.
That's it.
66438, okay.
And what is she charging per hour?
A reduced amount to finish this, but let's see.
$10 an hour?
No. Let's see. That was in March 26th, about a year ago. Look at that.
Like $60 an hour, 10 hours, but we're $30 an hour, 20 hours.
Well, she doesn't give me a breakdown per hour.
So it could be like 10, 20 hours, who knows?
I would go with $120 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the reduced,
I believe so.
okay.
6 hours.
6 hours. And were we gonna like use anything from the town's budget for printing materials or anything? Are we just talking about the contractor's labor for that that amount of money?
I believe that's just for the contract.
Okay.
So Stefan, would you think there's money, in the general fund that we could use to pay for some printing?
I mean, yeah,
Or would it be better to use the contract?
I think we can do it. I just, whatever it takes to get this done, let's figure it out.
Yeah,
right? So,
exactly.
We have a deadline for submitting our final two.
We do, let me see what that is.
It was a year from, when did that one go out? From me to him. That was in the fall, I
There's a
think.
deadline for getting reimbursed, though.
I think at this point, I mean, we don't want to go
We
that
got a
far.
letter.
Yeah, we got an extension,
But
but
we got a letter just recently.
no, that was for the housing needs assessment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this was in EIAF grant?
No, it's one of those, no, what was it?
Are you looking for the extension time period?
It was EIAF, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking for what they said for an extension, and that would have been,
We did it mid-fall.
how am I going to email my contracts?
It's like in January. There's no video on that chart or meeting. Meeting chart. There's no work. It was at a regular planning commission work session. I think it was like in January.
Well,
I have a point of order. When we're having a discussion, can you speak loudly and clearly so that it gets on the owl so that it can be put into the minutes, please?
minutes.
Well, minutes are for voting motions, aren't they?
No, it's for the meeting, what went on, debates, et cetera. It's a
I
complete
thought they were
record of what
action
goes on.
minutes. They're not hours, they're minutes. That's how it's always been explained to me. Sam?
I was gonna say, one of the reasons that we can do action minutes is because there's a recording of the meeting for people to look at later to get the full thing, so.
Okay, we're looking at each other's computers trying to figure out when Calarose was here in January.
It was not genuine.
Oh, okay, maybe it was December, not there.
So if Calarose was here and did give us a whole lot of options, what if we employed her for a little bit of that time to go ahead and set up a plan for us?
That sounds like a good idea. Do you think?
I'm a little concerned about timing. I just think we need to start setting dates to get this done.
Timeline that we can set.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I would like to suggest that we also describe some of the outlets we would like to have the information put out on. And then maybe Calarose can, if she's in town, can tell us which, what she is the best at. Because, I mean, the whole point was to kind of cover the earth with letting people know
Okay.
that the draft plan is out for comment. So we need to decide, when do we want the public comment to come back in?
Yes.
And how do we want that to comport with the work session that we wanted to have? So maybe we should pick a date for a work session and work around it. As a
How long do
starting
you want to
point.
let public comment go for? I think that's part one.
I'd like to see the public have 3 weeks at a minimum.
Okay, I would
That's
agree.
my thought. That's how long it takes me to read something and put my thoughts together.
And you don't even have to work, so the public, it might even,
I do have to work.
yeah. Well, I know, but you know,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
have a 40-hour week
Right, exactly.
job trying to keep a family fed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, 3 weeks seems good, but it also, to me, the 3 weeks is really important. That the information get out long before the public comment period starts.
Precisely.
So that we have given maximum latitude for people to get to know about it and then have a chance to read it. And
So my
So-
concern is there's so much here. This is like a lot thicker than the old comprehensive plan. And I remember with some kind of frustration when I would look at Ridgway's plan, you find abbreviated versions, so they're kind of pared down. There can be, and it was a little confusing because I was trying to find the whole thing, and all I was finding was these sections or whatever, but my point is, would there be any benefit to release some sort of a framework so people aren't just intimidated by this huge document, but they kind of see the Cliff Notes version that might make them refer to the bigger plan?
I would
I'm
say
just
the
throwing
table
that
of
out there.
contents.
Rick?
That would take a lot of staff time, and at this point, we have very little staff time available. And I can't do the synopsis myself. I literally am done for the next 2 months at least.
So we're talking table, so what I'm saying is, how do we make it accessible? And not like something where someone's looking at like a fire hose here and they don't know how to start taking the first step. How are we gonna make it accessible?
I think Suzanne, in my opinion, it is what it is. And people can look at the table of contents and pick the parts that are most important to them. But to try to take this again and make a Cliff Notes, I just don't think that's
I'm
fair.
not suggesting that we do that, Paige. I'm just saying that, what. I mean, I don't want to just hear criticism about it. I think I'm not saying that we were gonna rewrite it for Cliff Notes, but how are we gonna make it accessible? Is my question.
As I agree with Paige that putting out the table of contents and then having links or whatever to the actual pieces of the document, then people can go, as Paige said, to the specific areas where they are concerned and read them in depth.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
can I also think it's about the outreach. So I think the plan kind of stands and speaks for itself, but it's all in the outreach and the conversations we have. I mean, we as commissioners go out to talk to people. We can get information out on KVNF. We can have, we will have the presentation of the plan where, whoever's doing the presenting can go through main bullet points. You know what I mean? I think it's in the delivery of the document rather than trying to provide an alternate document.
Okay.
Suggestion.
I mean, it was frustrating with Ridgeway because I didn't ever know if I actually had their comprehensive plan because of all these other methods. I haven't looked at it in quite a while of trying to access it. But I had another concern, and that was their documents that are referenced in the comprehensive plan. And we need to make sure those are completely accessible to people too.
Thanks. I think, and I agree with that. And I think the main thing that would be good is, first of all, in the electronic version of the table of contents, link to the page where that piece starts, just like we do in the agenda packets now. So people reading electronically can jump from the table of contents to the section. And there are a lot of documents referenced, and the more we can have links to those documents in the one that goes out, especially Appendix D and E. D and E are comments, and E, I think we can actually put in. E is the summary from the Housing Survey Monkey, and it's not that many pages. It didn't get in this version, but Stefan, I think you have that extracted out of Survey Monkey, and it's really only 8 pages.
It's also it's in one of our agenda packets.
Yeah, so I mean, I personally think that should get added in a print version under Appendix E and not try to link, unless you want to link to the whole survey, but we have limited to the summary of comments. But the public comments in Appendix D references an earlier version of the comprehensive plan, and that I'm not sure how accessible that is. Do you know what I'm referring to?
In Appendix D, public comments?
Yeah, Appendix D references the certain version of there to the end. And it says, please see Paonia Comprehensive Plan 2024 public comments document for all public comments submitting during this planning process. So I'm not quite sure what that means and exactly what, if these are public comments from the 4 or 5 public sessions that Phoenix Rising had. I don't know the answer to that, but we probably should get it answered before that gets out. And that could be a remnant of the original Phoenix Rising. And it's on page 135 of the packet. And then Appendix C has a huge long list of documents that were referred to. I don't know if those all can be made available by links. It's a lot. But we do have documents at the beginning of the plan that were relied upon, and maybe if those can be made available with links or paper copies in the office.
Can I just ask a point of clarification? So if we're going to print this off, right, and we're going to, let's say we spiral bound it, we leave it at the library, we have Calla Rose do her thing with it. Appendix C is really reference and resource documents. When the meat and potatoes of this comprehensive plan is found in part 3, that's what we really want people to focus on. So if we're going to add more into appendices, what would be the purpose of that?
I kind of feel like somebody needs to see the complete document. I mean, if I were reading it and I saw an Appendix D public comments.
Oh, you're talking Appendix D. I'm asking about Appendix C where there's all these reference documents. Are you asking that they get put in too?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm saying when it's all said and done, I don't know if they could be linked. It's a lot of information. So to me, I'm saying no personally, but the documents that are on page in the intro.
Oh, we're talking appendix D, so this is what's on the website. Okay, let me go and see if I can find it on. You know what, this is a great time to showcase the new buttons at the top of the town's webpage. These were really confusing, it was hard to find something. Now, if you want anything within community development, town plans, you know, we can go to. Nope. Culture, where did I put them? Comprehensive. I want to find. Do you guys remember where they went?
You guys can find.
So under community development, comprehensive plan updates.
Oh, yeah, right there. So it's right up on the front,
But it doesn't really show us much of anything.
but it has links.
It has a link.
So here's where the comments are, right? So we actually have, I guess, all the public comments that have been received are right here.
Yeah, part of this, okay. So I don't know if that would be linked as opposed to trying to print everything out. I don't know how voluminous that is.
There's a lot of that. I've seen some of the comments. We've had that in packets before, and it's quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm remembering the comments in the housing action,
Yeah.
housing assess, but I'm not remembering this. I'm sorry, I can't.
I would think that would be important though, is because we do have a draft that's been accepted that now this gets put on the webpage for people to review.
That's the whole municipal code.
Oh, there you go.
That's what that is.
Maybe someone did find, I couldn't find.
No, I'm sorry, wasn't listening. So we do know where we can find all these documents that are referenced in the.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, I don't know each one of them in particular, but.
I mean, you don't have to Google them, there's somewhere like, are they all clickable?
I have no idea. That's something we'll have to talk about.
Directs you if you went and you look at this appendix, could you find everything or do you have to go Googling everything?
Well, we could, that's what I was wondering is if on the electronic version, if you would want to create a link to some of the main ones, but at a minimum, do you remember, Stefan, in the beginning, there was a list about 8 documents that were used for this? I can't find it in the beginning.
Are they in footnotes in here or are they just like a?
No, it's just everything.
Here
don't
it is.
exactly know what was
Oh,
being
it's not,
referenced.
I'm sorry.
Call it a bike law.
And I think it makes sense to put like the survey and very distinct appendices in there. But Suzanne, you've got to be with me on this as a fellow code nerd. Like every time I read building codes and everything like that, there is always reference standards.
Yeah.
Because it's always referring to other like books and lots
Yeah.
of books to where you wouldn't necessarily, you're stating that information, but you wouldn't include it. And to me, that reference
Yeah.
list is kind of in the same
That,
thing.
I guess the thing that's curious about that is there's been some redos, like, it started a certain way and then I think it got kind of, there's some sections that were eliminated and then Stefan took over and we took portions out. And I'm wondering, are these all relevant at this point? Or when we were going through removing sections, was any of this part of that? But I guess it doesn't matter. It's all.
They're all reference documents. I mean,
That, who knows what they actually referenced, and it might not be totally relevant anymore, but whatever. If they're not like the most important things in the world,
I would agree that
yeah.
and if I can just say, the list of documents I was referring to as well is on page 53 of the append, Stefan just found it. And I don't know if we want to leave all those in, yeah, or 53 of the agenda packet.
Okay, page 53 of tonight's agenda packet. Past plan studies and work. They've drawn inspiration from the following. So it's information and inspiration, it's no more than that. And that's not actually all that significant, but I think the housing needs assessment, it's not inspiration and information from that, it's actually something that's gone into making some of the goals here. You know, more, I mean, that's an important one. Making sure that we include some of the most important ones. The Trails Master Plan, that's an important one.
So I guess my question is, these are all available electronically, as far as I know. And they could be a live link. Because I don't know about the North Fork Valley Vision 2020.
Okay, I don't either, and that's
Everything
rather
else-
dated, that's like.
Everything else
15 years
is stuff
old.
I've looked at.
With the Peonia in motion, Parks, Recreation and Trails Master Plan
Those are
has never been
important.
adopted.
Yeah. Adopted.
It's been accepted, not
Right.
adopted.
And they inform, okay, so I have an idea, and they are important, they inform certain of the Parks, Recreation and Trails portion of the master plan, so that's a significant one that we want to make sure was visible, maybe in that section as part of our, you know, what we're kind of springboarding off of. The housing needs assessment is important to the housing in neighborhoods, everything that so there's a couple of these plans that are really kind of pivotal for some of the plan elements here, and I think we need to identify those. I mean, some of these are kind of a little arcane and obscure, and perhaps not the most important with, but you know, there's certain, the tree survey is important for the healthy natural environment, and we just want to make sure we showcase the few really important ones that have really informed some of the sections.
Can I ask why we would put, for example, the 1996 Peonia Comprehensive Plan in as a reference document for this plan, or even the Peonia in Motion Plan in for something that talks about something completely different?
Yeah.
Why would we be putting those things into this document when this document is prescriptive to what we plan to be when we grow up as a town? Why are we putting additional documents in to this?
Oh.
Well, I'm just looking through here and like the tree, we have a link. So some of these, we already have a link.
As long as there's a link.
Yeah, there's a link here.
Okay.
So urban environment, is that where we're at? Healthy natural
Yeah.
environment?
There's a link
Now,
to
let me see if maybe I understand that these aren't included in the plan itself. All is there are links so that people, if they're interested, can go to these documents, but they're not included in the plan at all.
That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
Because it would be voluminous.
We only included the ones that we thought were important to that particular policy.
And they just have links.
Okay, my concern was the housing needs assessment. I thought part of the DOLA agreement was there's supposed to be like, it seems like there are things that are being adopted in the comprehensive plan and the zoning changes and stuff that have directly to do with that housing needs assessment. And it's kind of pivotal in a way. And it sounded like DOLA wanted to make sure that we gave it adequate, you know, to the public, so they know what was actually going on with that. And I think if that's something that's going to inform our zoning code ultimately when the board gets to writing code. And
We can link.
yeah, exactly.
They can
And
just
so
link to that one.
exactly. So that,
Page
the
53.
comments, that little survey monkey thing that was done, I seem to remember the discussion was we were just trying to get people to look at the housing needs assessment. That's just trying to spark some interest.
But you guys actually sat down
Yeah.
and crafted very specific questions to put out to our,
To get people interested.
to get their feedback.
Yeah, no, it's to get people interested.
What we wanted to do was to put things that were in the plan. And so people would go back and, would kind of make them curious if they wanted to read more.
And then we accepted comment, because we also had open text box. And if we go back and review those meetings, you will see that you guys were very adamant that you have open comment text boxes to receive comment. And that's what was also received.
Page.
Well, the motion at the last meeting was to include the summary from that as Appendix E.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm saying the summary needs to be inserted in here at Appendix E before we publish. And it's
Okay.
only 5 or 6 pages. So that needs to be added to, but then all the documents were certainly something that we needed to talk about.
Okay.
And I personally would like to see a link to the housing needs assessment from this document, and maybe that's it.
Yeah, because that's probably one of the most important, and we have to stand on top of the housing needs assessment, like every 5 years or whatever the state wants you to update it. For getting any kind of housing money, I guess. There's a requirement in the statute, isn't there?
So
So that would just,
And-
So that's an important one.
on page 53, put a link in there
yeah,
on
Yeah.
the last one.
It's an important sub-chapter. These other
that's
things,
easy.
not so important, but that housing needs assessment is something that people need to be able to reference.
so it sounds like we're in agreement that before this gets published, and that's all part of our future discussion here, is to at least put a live link to the housing needs assessment action plan. And that would be the only one. The others are there for referencing purposes. If somebody wants to see something, they can call town hall. And then populate Appendix E. So that's really, the maps are in there. What's that?
If they're easy to access, like if we have a list that we can quick print off of, then that's not an issue.
I think everything in the bullets on page 53, I've seen. And I think they are on the town's website. I'm not sure about the 2020, anyway. The Vision 2020, published in 2010. You've seen it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one, but anyway, so that would be my suggestion, just link to that one because it's the most current. I agree with you, Suzanne, and that's.
So that being said, what is the earliest date we would have to be able to put this out for public comment?
I think the question is how fast can the staff get the
That's exactly,
part done?
exactly. That was
And
my
that's
point.
up to staff.
So, okay.
Huh?
You just need that list.
I think so, right? Are you asking for all 1, 2, 3, 4? Just one link for the town housing needs assessment, or housing action plan.
And can throw out a number, throw out a number and add 20%. And that'll be your.
Your contingency.
And then adding the summary from the housing element survey,
It's just a couple pages to extract out of the PDF.
I think.
Executive summary?
I think it's.
Yeah, it was in our previous two agenda packets previously. It was in there, so if those pieces could be extracted out for Appendix E. And I don't know, and anyway. I don't know about D.
There's no way our committee is gonna have everything done for Wednesday or tomorrow. I just don't got it.
Sam,
Ruben's timeline on the website, part of it would have to be moved until Wednesday. He's out of the office tomorrow. So just so you guys know.
So just for whatever, let's say by the end of the week. Okay, so if it's ready to be published by the end of the week, then we need draft dissemination plan, and then when are we gonna open it for public comment? Well, how long will it take to get out there? So if we put it on the website,
Where do we want to put it?
Well, it would be good to listen to what Kelly Rose had to say, because I thought she
Right.
had some good ideas. And she really helped us out with, you know, we were fumbling with some stuff, and she really helped clarify some things.
well, could somebody email her and ask her what her ideas were?
It's all recorded on.
Well, still, it would be much
Okay.
easier, instead of trying to go through all the recordings and listen to the whole thing, to just shoot her an email and say, what do you suggest we use for a dissemination plan?
She's around. I can remember a few of her suggestions, but
Yeah.
not the complete list.
We could get a transcript from the YouTube video.
Yeah, that's what we'd have to do is look at that if we can, but, given, so.
Because every hour that she spends on helping us, if it's information we already have from her, we could save a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Maybe if we could dig that up ourselves.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll give you the list that I remember her saying, which was she's gonna put up posters on all the poster board places, freebies. Put a copy or two in the senior center, copy or two in the library. Put copies and let people know they were in the free libraries around town.
Yeah. I
Oh,
thought
yeah,
that was a good
The
idea.
Hearth has a library too.
And then,
KVNF to
and
disseminate the
then, you know, then
information.
that we can do as a press release, KVNF, High Country Shopper,
And then at town hall.
and DCI.
And then if we could put a QR code in any printed material, that people could then automatically go to the website and have it.
Are we gonna
electronically.
put a notice on the utility bill, just look, come into town hall, ask for the comprehensive plan, or?
Those utility bills are,
That timeline will.
yes, it's just not gonna work for that timeline.
Oh, well, that's not good. If this needs to be done before your next utility bill, that's pretty fast. We can put a QR code.
We're
on the
adding
utility
3
bill.
weeks for public to read it and comment time on top of this, so we're already talking pushing June.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I'm a little fuzzy about what this timeline is looking at. So we're talking 3 weeks, till what date would that be? And then at what point are?
That's public comment time.
Right, so we need to decide when it's going out for public comment.
So we're looking, you're talking about Friday?
No, to have the plan ready to put up on the website, have it complete.
Because you can go anytime on the website.
Right,
Okay.
but then somebody's gotta make the posters, somebody's gotta put the posters out. The plan has to be put to get printed and bound and delivered to these places. And so when that is done, then we can start the public comment.
If I could just throw out kind of a timeline as a starting point, and then you guys can all shred it and we can go from there. But would we be shooting for public hearing for adoption beginning of June or beginning of July? I mean, if we're trying to, okay, let me just throw something out there. So let's say July 7th, regular planning commission meeting is the public hearing date for adoption. So then we back up and the next meeting, so it'd be June 2nd, could be the work session to incorporate any comments that we've received from the public.
What was
And so-
that date? June 7th, July 7th, or what? was
July
it?
7th would be the public hearing, and this is just a starting point for discussion.
Yeah.
July 7th would be the public hearing for adoption, so the previous meeting would be June 2nd, where we would incorporate comments received by the public.
Wait a minute, what do you mean by incorporate? You mean have that be the deadline for comments?
No,
No.
the deadline would be prior to that. That would be us meeting as a commission during our regular meeting and deciding how to incorporate those into the comp plan.
And I was envisioning the work session was a time for the public to come and speak and give us their input, not.
I'm still going.
She's only in June.
Just in June.
I'm still backing up. I wasn't done. So,
Oh, are you thinking
So again-
two work
yeah, so
sessions?
again, so July 7th is the hearing. June 2nd is where we incorporate public comment. So that would mean the May 5th meeting would be where we have a formal presentation, we have a work session, we have discussions. And in the interim, before, during, and after is plenty of outreach.
So when would you say public, you think, so you're saying, I mean.
Okay, so
May
now
5th would
moving
be-
forward, so staff has the update by the end of the week. We publish it so it's out there. We're having discussions with Calrose so she can do her business and get stuff out in the, public realm. And then our next meeting from now, which would be Cinco de Mayo, we could have a formal presentation and work session where we have discussions with the public, where we collect public comment. And that's continuing on until, let's say, a week before our June 2nd meeting, or whatever staff needs to compile that information. And then we go through it as a committee during that meeting
June 2nd.
on June 2nd. And again, this is a starting point. I'm just throwing it out there.
I would suggest that the public comment not be a week before the meeting. The public comment deadline, I'd move it back,
How far back?
Yeah.
because it's gonna take time to get through all those comments and figure out what to do with them.
So how far back would you push it?
I'd give at least 2 weeks before the meeting.
So that public comment would end on about May 15th, May 14th, May 15th?
I mean, the other thing we could do is have a special meeting for the work session and the presentation of the draft. So it's prior to May 5th. And so there's a full 3 weeks of comment after that, still giving staff 2 weeks to compile the data before our June 2nd meeting. You look like you have thoughts over there, Stephen.
I was gonna say, so that, what else is going
May
on?
19th through the 26th,
Oh, right.
I am unavailable
Yeah.
to the world.
Be right, May 19th to what?
The 26th.
July 1st to the 12th. July 1st to the 12th.
And I am gone the 23rd through the May 23rd through.
Well, that's the beauty of having 7 people on the commission.
That's true.
So April 14th, if we get it out, ready for public comment, that means that by the 11th, the things that have been asked to be added are added. April 14th,
May
Yes.
11th, things are added, you say? We get it out?
no, April 11th, that's this Friday,
April 11th.
things are added and pushed out on the 14th. That gives us 1, 2, 3 weeks before our next meeting, where we can present it publicly, May 5th, like you were saying. Then we can collect comments, the 12th, 19th, stop collecting comments on the 22nd of May. That gives us almost 3 weeks from the public work session on May 5th to get it into a packet for June 2nd to show that those comments have been incorporated. That gives,
Or not.
or not, but at least they've been considered.
Right.
And maybe that's where we use some of Rose's time to go through comments.
Oh,
I hope to be back on the 27th. And then the packet would be out on the 30th for June 2nd. Or we would have another meeting like this with a work session to say, here's what has been added, so that we can finally publish it, notice it, and have a public hearing to adopt the comprehensive plan on July 7th.
So June 2nd, you're thinking a work session and a meeting. So that the commissioners could vote to accept it or vote to approve it.
Sure.
At that June 2nd meeting?
So
Is that what?
I don't
Are you thinking
think
that was
that's,
a public hearing?
I don't think that's for the public hearing. That's for us deciding on the comments and how that's incorporated into the plan.
Okay. And then the hearing would be
the public
next-
hearing
July
on
7th.
July 7th, where a resolution would be presented to adopt the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be gone.
Sam's got her hand up.
Will you be able to be virtual?
I don't know. That would be carving marble, for 2 weeks.
Oh, you can drop your tools and come back. I'm kidding. Sam?
I was just gonna ask for the, so on the June 2nd meeting, do we need to have a work session and a regular meeting or just a work session?
Are we doing any sort of voting?
Yeah, I think it needs to be a meeting because we'd be voting to include information from the public comment period.
So maybe it's just.
We'll be working during a regular
There
meeting.
you go.
So it would just be a meeting.
So it would just be a meeting.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a work session.
That's fine. And then can I just confirm some dates here and make sure? I have them?
Is everybody on board with that?
Yeah.
Does that sound like a plan?
The July 7th may be problematic for me, but I think I can get Zoom. My mother's birthday.
What's it take for a course?
July 7th might not be good for Lynn and for Rick.
Well, it's our regular meeting.
And 7th's gonna be on May 19th through 26th. Okay.
And as long as I can download it, because I won't be back till the 1st of June. I think be okay for the work session.
We want to have a meeting on July 2nd.
I'm on the first through the 11th.
I won't be.
You're on I'm on the first 2 weeks in July. You can have it without me.
So do you wanna just push it to, well, that's already August, that sounds so late.
Unless it's July 14th.
Unless we
July
could have a
14th.
special meeting, you know, a little later, once people are back in July. You don't have to do it during the regular meeting.
I think if everybody were here, it would be good.
Okay, so round robin, when does everybody get back in July? When are you back?
I'm off here all of July.
All of July. I'll be back on the 4th,
The 11th.
the 11th. Suzanne, you're around?
I don't know, yeah, probably.
I'm around. When are you back, Rick?
16.
And
And
Stephanie?
you're just gone in May.
I'm not going in July, I'm going in May and June.
Okay, and, okay, so 16th is the latest. That someone's gonna be gone. So after the 16th,
So like,
That's Wednesday, that's not a problem.
So, and then the next board meeting is,
Can I ask a logistical question?
Yeah.
Because I know Stefan's gone from the 19th through the 25th. We're saying comments need to be submitted on the 22nd. And then we're saying June 2nd is going to be a meeting to go over the comments provided?
Sure.
Is that it? Just the comments provided, not the comments, not the draft modified in response to comments?
no, we'll decide what goes into.
Okay, so just the comments will be compiled for the agenda packet.
Right.
Mostly with Stefan gone, and they'd only be 3 days before the packet has to be published.
Am I doing the work?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. How are we gonna get this done?
So it's the
Right,
27th.
but,
I'm breaking ground too, folks. Like a whole bunch of construction
well,
projects.
that's it. We got a lot of stuff going on.
So I almost feel like this might be something for our consultants with those 600.
Oh, okay.
Because the comments are gonna come in all different ways. They're gonna come in electronically, they're gonna come in written. And wait a minute, when does the public get to come in and speak?
May 5th.
Yeah, make it.
May 5th.
Is that just a regular meeting?
That's going to be a
May
work
5th
session.
is it's the same date. It's the normal
So May
meeting
5th
day.
It's gonna be a work session.
Yeah,
And a regular meeting,
and then all following comments.
because it's our
come in on
normal
the
regular
22nd.
meeting.
Well, then why don't you just have a regular meeting instead of a work session?
On the 5th?
Yeah, because we could take public comment
Yeah, you
on this at a regular meeting.
And then the 2nd is a work session? I'm really confused.
No, the second is a regular meeting.
Then when is there a work session?
Well, it's gonna be a work, yeah, the public is gonna be there. Oh, well, no, we're gonna be,
No,
we're going to be approving the comments that are gonna go into the master plan.
But I want to know, when are the comments being brought to everyone to see?
Between April
Well,
That's
14th,
what I'm.
we're collecting them from April 14th until it sounds like
May
The
20
22nd.
May 22nd.
Yeah,
April 14th to May 22nd. We're collecting public comment.
And then, okay, good. That makes sense. Thank you.
So that's a little over a month. That's good.
And then the June 2nd meeting is to publish all the comments received and discuss them. Okay. At a meeting,
yes, because we have to vote on what we will accept.
okay. So the staff only needs to compile comments in whatever fashion they come in,
Or consultant.
or consultant. So in that.
So what is our objective when we're listening to these public comments? We're voting on people's, or I don't understand what we're asking the public for. Are we gonna say, well, we don't like your idea, or we really like your idea, or what exactly is the way that public can make meaningful comment? You know, are they saying, I don't like this part of the plan, so you say, oh, we'll take it out, or are they saying this
No, we're
isn't
not
clear?
Changing the plan.
Well,
No,
we may.
I'm just asking. I mean, why have public comment if you're not interested in?
The public comment is to make sure that the public understands and is in the process.
And
You're
if
not planning to change this yet again. We've changed this a number of times since last August.
So what's the point of public comment?
They have to have public comment. And we can include the public comment.
So it's just kind of just artifice.
no,
Okay, can I say?
Yeah.
something? We've had our hand up.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Dave Knudsen was in here last time. He had a comment about HOAs.
Mhm.
And we told him to come to the public comment period, and that's probably one we would include.
Mhm. Right.
So, I mean, it's that kind
I
of
mean,
thing.
Okay,
it's in case we miss stuff.
okay, so Mary, you're saying that it could be for potential additions or
Right.
whatever.
Right, but we're not gonna completely revise the
Are we
master.
gonna
No.
revise it and have a 90-day period?
No,
What's statutorily required? I mean, if you do.
Public
make
hearing right now,
Public
we
hearing.
have a
Yeah,
public hearing and pass it by
I mean,
resolution.
it doesn't matter if you make a little tweak to it. You've had your public hearing. You don't have to have hearing upon hearing every time there's a
You
change.
can have a public, well, yes, you do.
oh, no, so, yeah, so this is fine.
But because there are prescriptions on how to amend a comprehensive plan.
Right.
But the next step is literally to have, we don't have to do any of this. It's a public hearing with a resolution to adopt.
So we can
And
do
then
that.
it needs to go, to the Board of Trustees, and then it needs to go to the Delta County Commissioners.
Yeah.
So,
And this needs to be done before we get our ordinances rewritten.
Mhm.
So this is a time critical thing.
Mhm.
We're stopped on a lot of things because of this.
So if I may, back to the final adoption public hearing. So Rick, you're the one coming back on the 16th, right?
Yes.
So does that mean, like, when's the soonest you would feel comfortable with a public hearing upon your return?
16th. I'll be here on the 16th.
Okay, so what does this room look like, just out of curiosity, on the 16th and 17th in the evening?
Looks good, you just can't go. Yeah, no, you're good.
So we could conceively do the evening of Wednesday, the 16th for final public hearing. Does anybody at the table is anybody at the table not available for the evening of Wednesday, July 16th?
I don't know. I am flexible. on all day, with my work on all days except for Monday. So I don't know what my work schedule is gonna be like.
And we plan it, and you'll have a lot of advance notice.
I'm not sure. With my job, if they want you to jump, you jump,
Well, that's true of any day.
except for Monday. But you know, we can plan it, and if I can't make it, I might be a little bit late, who knows? It could be 7 o'clock, it doesn't have to be 6 o'clock, or it can be 6:30.
Or we could go to the 23rd, which is the following, the next Monday.
Let's not
Yeah.
push it out any farther, please.
Just throwing out ideas. So I say we go with it.
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, Lucy.
I'd like to move that we open public comment on the draft of the comprehensive plan on the 14th of April, to be closed on the 22nd of May. That we plan to have a presentation of the draft to the public during our regular meeting on May 5th. That we plan to review public comment for us to determine what we will and will not include in the draft on our June 2nd regular meeting, and that we schedule a public hearing for adoption on the evening of Wednesday, July 16th.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Oh, you need a roll call? No, you don't need a roll call. It's not here.
And I'm not voting aye just because I don't know what my schedule's like on that final day. So I don't feel comfortable agreeing to that, so I'll say nay.
Set at 6.
I don't set a time.
Yeah, we can set it.
Just a date.
It would make sense, it would be 6 o'clock.
Or even 6:30, if that gives Suzanne potentially more time.
Like
To get here.
Easily change it as long as we get 48 hours.
Right. I mean, Suzanne, does 6 or 6:30, I know you can't say for sure, but like, does that extra half hour, is that helpful to you?
Well,
or
it
not
depends
really?
if I'm local or if I'm somewhere else entirely, I can't do it, so it doesn't really matter, 6 would probably be fine,
And that's on July 14th.
yeah.
July 16th,
16th.
Wednesday the 16th.
Wednesday.
You'll send me a calendar. Do we need to have a time set now?
Unless you guys want a different time than your normal time, so I set it for 6.
Cool.
We can run it at a different time.
And you don't do 24-hour notice, this is noticed, right? So it has to be advertised in the paper.
That's 30 days. Yeah, it has to have a 30-day notice.
Yeah, so it'd be great to have that calendar printed up. So, you know, I've got scribbled down here, but for us and the public, so they can understand what the time frame looks like.
Do you want to talk more about what's gonna happen with getting the word out? So Cal Rose,
I've already sent her an email
okay,
asking if she's back in town.
okay, so we've had two different things for Cal Rose, to compile comments or help get the word out.
So I don't know that it's an either or, it could be a both.
Well, not if she only has 6 hours. I think we want to use her at what she's best at,
But if
and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, once we've decided the dates now, how about we put it out? It goes out on KVNF. We give it, make sure that it's posted at the library on our door up here. And we make sure that it's noticed in both of the newspapers in the county. And that should take care of it.
Well, we need paper copies.
Well, the paper copies will have to go out,
Sure.
but we can have the date when the paper copies come out. This will be available on this date. It can go out next week.
Well,
Should be able to.
I think we
They
should.
just
listen
find
to
it.
what
About
they
social
should
media.
contract.
Well, yeah, we need social media.
Yeah. I know.
So-
Some coordination and follow would still be good.
you emailed her, right?
Oh, was there a question to me?
No.
You've
You emailed her to find out her
I did, I'm
availability.
emailing her again now,
Our dates.
we need to meet.
Mhm.
And you know how you put out the public notices to people who have signed up? We could put it on that.
Oh, yeah, I text my God.
Mhm.
I think that should go out to people on any Text My Gov ones. Sam, apparently there are 3 Text My Gov ones. One's for general information, one's for streets, one's for water. It might be good to just send this out to all 3 Text My Govs.
I don't know about 3 different ones. I get everything.
Apparently there are 3, right? You had to sign up for different ones?
No, I get everything.
Yeah, and I just signed it.
I was told that there were 3.
There's 3.
There are 3? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're probably signed up for all 3. Go ahead,
I only
Sam.
signed up once.
I was gonna say, I hesitate to, if people have only signed up for information on street closures or water, they're not gonna much appreciate getting blasted about a public hearing. And so I hesitate to do that to
Oh.
people.
Okay,
We do have a public notice one that goes out and we can put it on the general one, but if it comes down to the specific ones, I'd hate to run people off of being on those kind of notifications by putting something different on it.
I didn't actually mean, public hearing, I mean just comprehensive plan is
Well, just the
right.
comprehensive
Okay.
plan in general.
There's a street section that you might be interested in it. And there's also a water section.
I think since people subscribe to it specifically for just certain things, I think
Okay.
maybe there's other ways we can use text like that.
Okay.
It's been a pretty important tool for us, letting people know about water breaks and street closures. I just,
And it's people out of town.
we've had a lot more engagement than we expected to, and I hate to destroy that in any way, so.
With junk mail.
Pretty much, because I think most people will consider it junk mail.
Okay, so, have we satisfied our agenda item here?
I think so.
Anything else to add? Setting a work session, setting a date for public hearing. Okay. Okay, so we're talking about setting work sessions, but they're really just gonna be meetings. Okay. Great, so. Yeah, I think we can adjourn the meeting.